Hello, welcome to Snails and Fairy Dust. Today we are going to make this bracelet with odd count peyote stitch. In our previous video where I taught you how to use peyote stitch to make rings, that was an even count peyote stitch. The odd count is a bit more complicated, but if you already know how to do the even count, you could totally do this. I have a pattern and I'm going to be giving it away for free for this tutorial. So if you click the link below, you can download it for free and follow along. Okay, so let's take a look at our supplies. I'm using size 11 Miyuki Delica beads. You can find the exact numbers in the pattern. I have a size 12 beading needle. I have 6-pound fire line. And I have little thread guards or wire guards, as they're sometimes called. I have some jump rings, and I have a little lobster claw clasp. And I have scissors, and I have pliers, which I'm not showing here, but I'm going to need those as well. Okay, so let's get started. I need to cut about 4 feet of my fire line beading thread. And then for the first row, as you see in your pattern, you're going to pick up 9 beads. These 9 beads will actually become the first 2 rows of your peyote stitch. But we're just going to call this the first row. So I'm going to slide those down towards the end of my thread and leave about a 4-inch tail. And then I'm going to pick up a bead, skip that first bead there, and bring my needle through the second. Now, if you did already learn the even count peyote stitch, you'll see this is very similar. I mean, it's exactly similar, actually. The tricky part just gets when we come to the end of the row. So we're just going to keep going across. We're going to skip 1 bead, bring our needle back through the next bead. And when I pull it tight, you end up with these little triangles, like so. So I'm going to keep doing that. Pick up the next bead, skip 1, bring my needle through the following one. And I am left with another little triangle. And then we're going to do this a couple more times. Skip the next one, bring your needle through the following bead. And now you see we have this extra bead at the end where we can't do the same thing. And this is where it's a bit more complicated. So we're going to pick up the next bead and we are going to bring it down through that end bead and then back up and around. So here we go. We come down through this bead, and when we pull it, that's where we want that bead to be, right? So, but we need to anchor it there and get our thread back to where we want it. So in order to do that, we're going to go down through the center one here. And then we're going to go down through one of these up beads. And then we're going to come through the one across from it. And then we're going to come back up through that center bead again, and also through the bead with our original tail. So the very first bead we've ever added. And now we have something looking like this. And to get back to where we're beading again, we need to come back through that outside bead there. And that's where we want to be. And now it's going to be weaving just like regular even count peyote stitch for a second until we turn around again, and then there's a little trick. And so we're just going to be adding a bead in between each of these up beads. So pick up a bead, bring our needle through the next bead that's sort of sticking up. That's what I call the up bead. And then this bead will just sort of sit in there beautifully if I manage to hold on to it. And like that. And then we pick up another bead. And again, we bring our needle through the next up bead, which will help this bead sit just like that. And we do it again. And with this, because it's 9 beads wide, I picked up 2 that time, one row will have 5 beads, the next row will have 4 beads, and it's going to go back and forth like that. So we pick up our next bead and go through the next up bead. And there we've completed that row. Now going back, it's the same exact thing. We're just going to go and bring our needle through the up beads and set beads in between them. But when we get to the end of this row is where it gets a little bit tricky, and there's a special turnaround we have to do in odd count peyote stitch to make it work. So I'll meet you back here in a second and we will take a look at that. Okay, so here we are. We have just placed our final bead in between the up beads. And in order to get an up bead, we need to do something tricky here. So I've picked up my bead and I am going to go underneath that thread bridge on the outside of my peyote work. So here we go. Pull our needle through there, slide that little bead to where he needs to be, and then you bring our needle back through it. And when I pull this tightly, now you have an up bead on the edge, and you're just going to weave right back down the same way, adding beads in between the up beads. So we go straight down, and I'm also following my pattern now, so make sure you're adding beads where you need to. It's going to be another dark purple here. There we go. Finally got that one in. And then we are going to add another white in these up bead spots. And then we turn it back around to go the other way. It's going to be the same exact way, but when we get to the end of that row, we have to do that little tricky move again. So when we get there, I will join you and we'll just discuss it one more time and take a look at it to make sure we all understand how to make that work. Okay, so here we are at the end again. We're going to pick up that end bead, slide our needle underneath the thread bridge on the outside edge of our peyote stitch here. Bring the needle through and then slide that bead to where it's supposed to be. And then bring your needle back through that bead. There, I've made a little loop. Okay, I'm fixing it. Okay, and then this is what we should have. And now we can just continue on adding beads in between the up beads. So it's only on that one edge of your work where you're always going to have to do that little slide underneath the outside thread bridge. The rest of it is just like even count peyote stitch. I mean, the great thing about odd count peyote stitch, it seems to be a bit of a pain, but the nice thing about odd count peyote stitch is that you get to have a center bead in your design. With even count, you're never able to have a nice center, and a lot of designs just, they need a center. So it's important to learn this stitch if you want to expand your beading vocabulary. So I'm just going to keep on beading here. You keep on beading there, and we're going to meet back when we have to take a look at ending a thread and starting a new thread. Okay, so you keep on beading, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so here we are. I'm pretty far along in my work, and I am running out of thread. So what I'm going to do is take my needle and weave it down into my beadwork, and I'm going to really secure this thread before I add another one. So what I do is find two little neighboring beads next to each other, like these, and then I'm going to weave around the two of them to create tension. And I'm going to do that a few times, actually. If you've seen any of my other videos for earrings, you'll know that I don't do it this much. But I feel like for a bracelet, it takes a lot more wear and tear because it's on your wrist than an earring does. So I want to make sure it's really secure. So I'm going down a bit further. I'm finding another two beads. I'm going to loop around those two neighboring beads a bit. And now I feel secure. And I'm going to clip that. And then I'm going to add a new thread, and already threaded that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to anchor it. Well, that I just pulled through, but messed that up. But I'm going to anchor it by weaving around 2 beads a couple of times, making a lot of tension there. And then I'm going to work my thread back up to where I ended. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. And again, I really want it to be strong because it's a bracelet. Also, I want you to remember that these beads are glass. So if you ever hit a bead where you're having trouble getting through it, because maybe you've passed through that bead already a few times, you want to just go a different direction because the bead will break, and that's the worst. This is my kitten Bean. He will be making a lot of cameos in my life, I'm sure, lately, because it's just hard to keep him away from me when I'm beading. He's attracted to it like a magnet. Okay, so here we are. We are almost at the top again. I'm going to do one more little loop around, and then I'm going to just follow the path of the thread where I had ended so that my thread ends up right where it's supposed to be. And then I'm just going to keep on beading until I get to the end. Meet me back here and we're going to learn decreasing brick stitch. Okay, so here we are. We have completed the pattern, and to end it, I'm going to show you how I end it. There are lots of many ways to make a bracelet and end a bracelet with peyote stitch, but this is the way that I do it. So if you want to see that, stick around. So we're going to go back through this row just as if we were adding another row, but when we get to the end of it, we are going to start decreasing. So I am adding one more row, and now I want to be able to skip that outside bead there. So in order to do that, I'm going to take my needle down 1 bead and up 1 bead. So it's down 1, and then you're going basically up through 2. And then you're going to go down, down 1 again, and up. Down 1 and up through 2. Oh my gosh, this is really bad beadwork. I swear on the next one it's going to look better. So down 1, up through 2, like so. And then we're going to take our needle and bring it through that outside bead and through the next up bead. And so now we're just going to add beads in between those up beads. And I'm going to show you this again. Hopefully there's a better camera angle this time. Okay, so again, I'm going to go down 1 row, up through 2 beads. So down, I go through that bead and then through the bead above it, like that. And then I'm going to do that again, where I go down 1 row, through that bead, and then through the bead above it, directly above it to an angle, like that. And then I bring my needle through the outside here, and then I could go just straight back up through these beads, and I will end up at that up bead, and then I could just add beads in between the up beads again. So we're doing this again. Like so. And now we're down to 2 up beads, which is where we want to be. But we're going to go down 1 more row, up 2 beads, and then again, down a row, up 2 beads. Like so. And then we want to get our needle back to that up bead. But this time we're not going to add a bead. We are going to add a wire guard. So I add my wire guard. I go through 1 hole. And then I go down the other hole. And I'm going to come through that outside bead. And the one next to it, actually. And you want to make sure your thread stays in the channel of the wire guard. So not like that, pull it back and make sure it stays, go slowly, and it needs to stay in that channel. Otherwise, it is not guarded. And I squeeze it a little bit to fit it in between those two beads. They're really easy to squeeze, very pliable. And then I'm just going to bring my needle down through the bead right below it. And I'm going to do that same thing. Basically, I just need to get my thread back up to the other side of the wire guard because I want to go around this twice to make it extra secure because, again, this is a bracelet. We want it to be strong. So I am just weaving my thread down and I want to end up back where I started so I can go back up. So just follow the path across and then you're just going to come right back up. And through that wire guard, and then loop it back down through the other side. Make sure the thread stays in the channel again, like so. And then this time, I'm just going to bring my needle right down through that outside edge, and then I'm going to weave it into my work and secure it. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to weave in there. And like I said, there are many different ways to end a peyote stitch bracelet, which is why in the pattern I haven't actually included the decreasing brick stitch because maybe you have a special way to end yours. And so that's why I've left that out. Okay, so here we are. I finished the one side and then I have that original tail. So I need to weave that tail in and then add a new thread so that I have enough thread to really secure a wire guard at the end. So I'm going to do that on both ends. And then here we are. We have both of our wire guards attached and we are going to add jump beads, but I had a little bit of interference. So we are going to cut to another cut where the kitten has been kicked out of the room. And now we are going to add some jump rings to these wire guards. So bear with me here. I have a really hard time doing the wire guards on camera still. So it's bad camera work. But basically I open that jump ring and then I add my lobster claw and then I take my pliers and I'm going to close that jump ring again. There we go. And I need to tighten it. And this is where my bad camera work comes because I can't really see what I'm doing while I'm looking at the camera that close. So then on the other side, I am going to add a jump ring. And I want to add a few jump rings on this side because I like for my bracelets to be adjustable. Sometimes you want it a bit looser, sometimes you want to stack it. And so you want it to fit at a certain size. And everyone's wrist is a bit different size. So I think it's good to have them be adjustable, but that's completely up to you. So I add that on, and then I'm going to add on a few rings that I've just sort of attached to each other. You could also buy chain extenders that will already be attached to each other and they're sort of soldered together. So they're not open jump rings like that, which will give you a bit more flexibility and strength. But for the purposes of this demonstration, this is how I'm doing it. If you need it to be longer, you could add more rings. And there we have it. We have made this bracelet. I think it's super cute. I think it's fun for summer. It's actually called Summer Lovin', this pattern. And I think it will make a great addition to anyone's summer wardrobe. I hope you enjoyed this. I have a lot more bracelet tutorials coming up and patterns. Sorry for the scratches on my arms. It's from my kitten. And I hope to see you soon. Bye.